if you want to lead in any area, you have access and opportunity to do it here. The competition is different if you're in Chicago or even Des Moines or Kansas City or St. Louis. It's just different. And I love that about the Quad Cities, and my kids do too.
Where do you find a family of communities connected by the storied Mississippi River, where young explorers and dreamers, investors and entrepreneurs thrive? Where can you connect with real people living and creating in a place that's as genuine as it is quirky? QC. That's where.
Welcome to QC That's Where. I'm Katrina, your host, and today I am with Rene Gellerman, the United Way President and CEO. Rene, hello, how are you?
Hi, Katrina. I'm great. Thank you.
Thanks for joining this podcast. We were talking a little bit before we started recording, and there's a lot of really important things going on, that the United Way is tackling. Rene, you just authored your first book, Adventures of Kids United, The Glass Bridge. I want to just jump right in. Why did you write the book, and how does that kind of intersect with United Way's mission in what you're trying to achieve?
Well, with my work with United Way, it's really shown me the potential that kids have when they're supported and encouraged. I happen to be a volunteer through our Read United program. So every week I go in and volunteer to read with a student for 30 minutes. And I really better understood the potential that kids have. And sometimes you don't know you have potential until someone tells you that you do. And so my book is really inspired by all of that. I want to bring a message to life that was fun and adventurous, the kids could relate to, while also showing them that their unique talents are really their own superpowers.
So that's kind of what the book is about. It's five kids from the Quad Cities, and I read the description. I haven't read the book yet, so I want to get my hands on a copy, and I've got two little
Oh,
boys of my own that I would love to share this with.
I
Um,
am going to get you a copy, Katrina.
yes, thank you. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the kids in the book without spoiling it.
Well, there are five kids, and those kids are actually based on my own children. Each character in the book represents the unique talents and personalities of my own kids. And the book is really all about teaching kids that they have their own unique strengths, and I call them superpowers in the book. And through the story, they work together and they learn being kind, and by believing in themselves that they can overcome any obstacle. And so I think the story is really a fun and engaging way for kids to learn that life skills that they need to grow up to be confident leaders and change makers.
For any Quad citizens listening, are there any familiar landmarks, Quad City isms that appear throughout the book?
Yeah, so not only my five kids who are raised here in the Quad Cities, but this book is actually called The Adventures of Kids United, The Glass Bridge. The Glass Bridge, the inspiration was the Sky Bridge. And I know there are some, goofy things said about the Sky Bridge, like the Sky Bridge to nowhere and stuff, but I've been around for a while, so I know the history of that Sky Bridge. And so it's really symbolic. There's a story behind that. Maybe you and I can get to it. But it's the Sky Bridge that the kids see and they're inspired by. And they find their way to this Sky Bridge, and it's a mystery bridge that they cross over, and they end up opening the door at the end and they find a hovering spaceship.
Ooh, that's my kind of book. I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the Sky Bridge to kind of go on that topic briefly, the Sky Bridge is quite an asset here. And I know what you're saying. There is some like chitter chatter about what is it, and the purpose behind it and that kind of thing. Which I want to hear your take on it and what you know. Because what I know, when I was like a very young teen, I believe, my family was from here, and I did not live here yet in the Quad Cities. And I would come, and I remember my cousin told me about the Sky Bridge that had just finished building in Davenport, and she's like, I have to take you to go see the Sky Bridge. It's colorful. It's a lookout. You can see the whole town. come with me and see it. And so it was an adventure. We went. I'd never seen it before. I'd never seen anything like it before. And we really loved it and we had a great time. And, as the years have gone on, I mean, it's become not only like a visual asset, it's kind of like a recognizable feature of our community, our Quad Cities. But it's also been used, it's been programmed. I mean, alternating currents uses it. And it's like I said, it's a lookout. A cool it's kind of a cool asset visually for people to go, hey, you can climb up in there and you can look this way, you can look that way, you can get some great photography. I've seen some really great photography out of that bridge. So
Yeah.
um, it
Yeah.
is a cultural asset. It's something that we like to, look at as far as like our arts and culture scene too. It's an art piece, if nothing
Hmm.
else.
Oh,
I'd love to
100%
hear
it is.
the background of it too.
Well, it's iconic and it's used for special events. I have exercised in that sky bridge, gone up and down the steps on both sides, walk across, stretch. So there's homecoming pictures are taken in that sky bridge. It's iconic. But the back history and why it's included in my book beyond this iconic and recognizable structure is the symbolism that relates to the theme of the book. So that sky bridge really was the result of a small group of people, regular people like you and me, who cared about their community and they came together and talked about how do we make our downtown better? And this small group of people really were the drivers of the creation of this sky bridge. And they had to, as part of the referendum funding, the state funding from the state of Iowa for River Vision, that actually was the funding that helped create the Figge Art Museum, the redevelopment and the rehab of the Redstone Building, which is where Common Core is located. And that sky bridge was all part of this. And it is a lookout point. It's magnificent views of the Mississippi River, right where the Mississippi turns. You can see both directions. And it means a lot to me because I was around in sort of this community service role, and I worked at the chamber at the time when all of this happened. So to see the community come together, just residents who care about the future of their region. They care about quality of life. They understood the economic ripple effect that development would have on the Mississippi River. I think that bridge is so symbolic that I wanted to use it as part of my story. And I know kids won't know that, but for me, I wanted to connect it. And honestly, I'm paying tribute to those people. I know a lot of the people that really were on the forefront of that first round of rehabilitation and enhancing of our downtown Davenport.
And the fact that you were able to work in an asset and a piece of the community that like adults will know, like you said, the kids don't know, but the adults do. And I think half of the psychology of getting a children's book in somebody's hand is trying to appeal to their parents too, so that they'll pick it up and go, hey, I know that thing. Let's take a look at this. And
Yeah.
this book is driving a much larger purpose. And would you talk to us about the initiative with getting these books into the hands of as many second graders as possible?
Yes, I'd love to. So at Unite Away, we really mobilize people and resources so that everyone can thrive. And we focus in the three very specific areas. And that would be youth opportunity and education. The second one is financial security and workforce. And the third one is a healthy community. And in the area of education and youth opportunity, we want to make sure that the Quad Cities is the best it can be so every kid has an opportunity to be successful at whatever they want to do. And literacy is a core piece of that. So you look across the globe, and reading proficiency, there's a milestone, it's third grade, that up until third grade, kids are learning to read. And then at third grade, they have to read to be able to learn. And so we work really closely with all of our school districts in Scott County and Rock Island County to identify challenges that we're seeing in the schools and opportunities. And literacy is one of those opportunities. The pandemic really dampened the progress of kids academically everywhere. But what makes the Quad Cities different is that we do have these key leaders. All these superintendents are actually working together across cities, across the region. And this is really unusual. We're actually contacted frequently to kind of describe the model and use it as a best practice across the Quad City or across the country. And we really land on literacy being a key milestone that we want to work hard at improving in the Quad Cities. So the book really is to shine a light and raise awareness of the importance of reading proficiency. It's the biggest indicator whether somebody's going to graduate from high school. It's the biggest indicator on their lifetime earnings. It's the biggest indicator of whether they're going to change a generation trajectory if they come from a lower income poverty area. And so we've got this big focus on it. And so we're trying to sell enough books and raise enough money that we can put this book into the hands of 3,000 second graders. That's every second grader in the Quad Cities.
Hmm.
All the proceeds from the sale of this book, I am donating back to United Way to fund literacy programs.
And those literacy programs, like I didn't know until today when I started looking at unitedwayqc.org to see those stats. I mean, it's staggering, the fact that you put it into words as far as third before third grade, you learn to read, and after you read to learn. That's so eye-opening.
Hmm.
And that second grade mark, what is it? So 75% of students who struggle in third grade will continue to struggle into high school.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it makes sense. If you can't read well,
yep,
it's hard to comprehend what you're learning.
absolutely. And so it's like you and others who are behind you in this, Kids United literacy effort, you've identified the key time to get those books in kids' hands,
Hmm.
second grade and earlier, devoting the time, talking about it, getting everybody on board and aware. I love that you and your team are being like thought leaders and leaders in the country of how to tackle this problem because it's not just a Quad Cities problem.
No.
It's something that the entire nation sees.
Hmm. Yeah, it really is. And the fact that we do have people here in the Quad Cities that are activating to address this. Not only are we just doing this book, but right now we have about 800 people in the Quad Cities that meet with a student, kindergarten through fourth grade, every week for 30 minutes to read with them to help them get caught up.
Hmm.
We've improved reading proficiency about 15% since 2021. And so we have a community that cares about their kids. We want to be a standout community that prioritizes education, and people are willing to give their time, talent, and their money to help us, improve those conditions for our kids.
The Quad Cities can be positioned as such a powerhouse, given that we are along two states. We
Hmm.
kind of get the benefits and perks of, the Iowa side, the Illinois side, and these, 5+ dozens of smaller communities all working together as one larger, like I said, powerhouse, really. I mean, we have all of this effort, all of these minds, initiatives like what you're doing all together for the benefit of this bi-state community. Um,
Hmm.
can you talk a little bit about, just the benefits of having that Iowa and that Illinois, kind of give and take, working together, collaborating?
Yeah, I think, for someone who lives here, you have these unique characteristics of these different communities, and you can decide what you want to live in, sort of the culture that you want for your community, which I think is fabulous. Related to my work, and you look about at education, uh, with communities that have one school district, it would probably be easier to kind of align efforts and resources. But the benefit we have is we have 8 major school districts in Scott and Rock Island County. When we can bring all of those school districts together to talk about their challenges and their opportunities, sometimes they're a little bit different. So they might be a challenge in one state and more of an opportunity in the other. it's an opportunity, it's a situation where people can talk about best practices and share them. And they do that in this region, and we see that. We also see in my work, and it's not just in education, we also, as I mentioned, we work in workforce and financial security and health too. But stakeholders in this space that are really trying to improve lives, give a hand up in situations, are really understand that all boats will rise.
Mhm.
And so we have superintendents and leaders in this community that realize that we may need to invest more in one area of our region versus the other on a particular initiative because we need that boat to rise in that space. I think that's a real asset. One of the unique things that United Way has been able to create related to back to education is this education council, which has those superintendents. We have business leaders on that education council. We have other funders on that council, and we have a agreement where all academic records from public schools goes into a data warehouse at St. Ambrose University. So now we bring in St. Ambrose University as a partner too to analyze the student data to tell us where we are in different milestones of achievement so that we can be faster and more nimble than any other
Mm,
region that doesn't have that kind of asset. Because what you otherwise would have to do, Katrina, is you really have to wait until the state gets all their reports and then they report them back out, which is great, but that is probably an 18-month lag.
mhm.
But here in the Quad Cities, we're able to assess that quickly. And we did that during COVID with the pandemic. And we were able to be very flexible and nimble. And immediately, as soon as we could, we got volunteers in the schools to start helping kids get back on track.
And so one of the other like challenges that you guys have identified is the attendance
Yes.
the attendance
Yeah.
issue, and again that's something that I think families and kids see and struggle with throughout the country. So
Mhm.
here in the Quad Cities, trying to talk to kids that are in the school system. You mentioned before we started this podcast, middle schoolers getting their input and letting them be part of the solution. Can you
Yeah.
kind of talk about that goal and how you guys are working to tackle that?
Yeah. You can turn on the news or pick up any newspaper across the country, and you're going to read or hear about the challenges that our students are facing. You hear a lot more about mental health issues, and attendance is an issue, like you said, across the globe. And it really has gotten worse since the pandemic. And you can Google why is attendance increasing, and you can find out all these reasons. And if you ask parents or counselors or teachers, all those reasons that you've Googled are you're going to see. But what we thought we would do here is how do we put our middle schools students in a position to shape any solutions that may be needed to improve attendance or improve their school experiences. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to really leverage their own power. And so we are coordinating what we're calling student voices. And it's, if you remember back several years ago, our region did a initiative called the Quad Cities Big Table. And
I
it
was
was,
just thinking that. That's so
yeah,
funny. That popped into
yeah.
my head. Yep.
Yeah, it was so successful. We had 5,000 people that got together on one day.
Yep.
And so Student Voices is really modeled at the big table. So today, this week, we're at 13 middle schools
Mhm.
and 1,000 kids are around tables, 10 kids to a table. We have volunteers that volunteered, about 100 volunteers that are facilitating a conversation, asking sixth, seventh, and eighth graders what matters to them, what are the challenges they see in their school? But we also want to make sure that we're not just creating lists for community leaders or teachers or schools to do. So we're asking them, what can you do as a student in the school? What would you be willing to do? What could you do, either individually or with a group of friends to improve school? And I'm so excited. We're partnering also with Western Illinois University, who's going to analyze that data for us. I'm excited to see what the kids come up with. And on our side, we've been raising money to help fund this initiative because we're really looking for some key themes that we can help realize and maybe even involve some middle school students to help realize some of those solutions that they come up with.
They are like the next generation coming up, and I don't know if it's the end of Gen Z or the upcoming of Gen Alpha, but they are like the most creative and funny and just wise like kids that I've ever seen, and I'm really excited to see what you guys come up with, what they come up with. Do you have any projection of when that data, when those answers will be available for people to check out?
We're aiming for the end of January, first part of February.
That's great. And like you said, this the speed that you guys are able to work within instead of sending it off to your state, whatever, and waiting for a year and a half for anything to
Right,
happen.
right.
So cool. I mean, the assets and that's one other thing, you've mentioned that you guys are working with Western, you worked with Ambrose. Like the higher ed sphere of the Quad Cities
Hmm.
is enormous. And that's one thing that I see just like anecdotally, people like teens that come here for college, a lot of times they end up staying. They're not from here, but they came and they found work or they just liked it or life happened and they stayed. I think that's a really positive like a positive turn of people coming to the Quad Cities and just having that good experience as an adult and then kind of leaking that down into the middle school age, trying to foster your voice matters. Here's what's happening in our community. Bringing people up to be part of the Quad Cities so that they stay. And it's not like I mean, sometimes a boomerang situation happens, but I think the more stock you give somebody at a young age, the more they're going to hold on to that and really grow up feeling that ownership.
I think you're so right. We have a magnificent, diverse post-secondary education system, lots of opportunities, options, depending on what you're interested in. They also sit on our education council, as do the trades and unions.
Mhm.
I keep talking about the Education Council, but it's such a valuable asset and it's coveted across the country. And I've realized in my time, I've been at United Way for 5 years, we haven't done enough to recognize the investment these individuals have put into our system. And they come up with innovative interventions like, you know, this focus on literacy or their student voices. And when you talk about college students wanting to stay here, not only can we embed that as kids are growing up and letting them know that we do care about them, we give their voice a platform and all of that, but I don't know, if I was in college and I knew that my community cared so much about kids, that they did all this work, that our kids were a priority and education was a priority, I'd want to stay here too. I'd want to raise my kids here. I want my kids to grow up in a place where people care about them. And I think these kinds of investments of time and people putting their reputation on the line for some of this programming would inspire others to stay here and live in the Quad Cities.
And taking off your United Way hat, you've got 5 kids of your own, you
Mhm.
mentioned. So kudos to you for for choosing to, raise them here and get them involved
Yeah.
here. Why did you? What was the reason that you said the Quad Cities is the place for me to raise my family?
Well, a few things. I came to the Quad Cities for education. I come from a very dysfunctional childhood. I had lots of challenges in my life. My parents didn't have really solid parents to help direct my life. And one day I was sitting and looking at a newspaper in my local community, and there was a little ad in the newspaper the size of a business card that said Black Hawk College was accepting letters of interest for scholarships. So I wrote a letter, not having any idea what I was doing. Make a long story short, they sent me back a letter and gave me a $600 scholarship. I didn't know that $600, they probably offered everyone $600. I'm not sure. But I thought I was very special. And so I moved to the Quad Cities. So that is a link that really is really important to me. So it's probably one of the main reasons why I stayed here because I had opportunity here and I saw different potential here and it broke kind of my paradigms of the way that I grew up. But then my career just took off. I think in the Quad Cities, there's just so much opportunity to get plugged into the community and to make a difference. So either you do it through your job. I'm lucky to be able to do that for my job, but I haven't always had a job like that. But I've been able to find opportunities to connect and make a difference, even though I wasn't working for like a nonprofit like United Way. And if you want to lead, in any area, you have access and opportunity to do it here. The competition is different if you're in Chicago or even Des Moines or Kansas City or St. Louis. It's just different. And I love that about the Quad Cities, and my kids do too. One of our kids is a boomerang, lived in Chicago for 8 years, and he's back in the Quad Cities, and he loves it. And he's involved in all kinds of things, and he's really making his way, having able to influence different programs and initiatives on a volunteer basis, being successful in business. I think that that is the big thing. And then the other, it's affordable. It's very affordable for our kids to live here and for us. And you can't ever forget about the Mississippi River. Sometimes I think we take it for granted, but it is world renowned. People come, I know you know this better than I do, Katrina, but people come here just to dip their toe in the Mississippi River or to go on the Sky Bridge and look at it or cross the iconic I-74 bridge. There's not another one like it in the whole world. Another project that inspires me that that project got done. And so there's all kinds of reasons to stay here.
That is so interesting. So you are one of the real world stories of somebody who came here for, a college or a college experience or an opportunity, and you stayed. And, you found the Quad Cities was going to be the best place to call home.
Yes.
I love that. We do see that all the time. And like you said, visitors come in and they want to know, what can we do while we're in town? Whether, coming to our destination centers, we love to just have that conversation with people because it allows us to ask the question, well, what are you interested in? And then we can kind of dive down into the specifics. And being this bi-state market where we have the natural asset of the Mississippi River and the innovation of things like the I-74 pedestrian access bridge, we can find something for everyone. And it is such a blessing to be able to live in that space. And like you said, it's easy to take for granted. So to
Hmm.
remind ourselves in conversations even like this, or listening to this podcast of all the things that are at our fingertips and not take for granted, but to take advantage of it while
Yeah.
we're here and it's literally in our backyard. It's so we're so fortunate to have that opportunity.
We are. All of our arts and culture, emerging musicians and um, blues, the parades, the Mercado on Fifth that was just extraordinary.
Yes.
The Bix, the Bix actually this year partnered with us, United Way. So here we have a running organization partnered with United Way because they were really trying to find a way to activate more young people into the race
Yeah.
and not necessarily, and they wanted to get to kids who maybe wouldn't necessarily be able to because they didn't have the shoes or
Right.
whatever. So they partnered with us and we were able to connect them with kids that really needed good quality shoes. So those kids got to participate in the Bix for the very first time. And, it was just fabulous. But all of these, the, you know, John Deere Classic or the
Yeah.
stuff's going on at TBK, there are lots of things to do, whether you're a visitor or just living here. All these assets are great exposure and gives you something to do on the weekends and really makes me really proud to live here.
What is your ideal weekend of Quad City things? Like a place to eat, a thing to do. What's your go-to?
Well, I hate to say one place where I go to eat. Oh my gosh, somebody's going to get mad at
It
me.
is hard.
Yes, yes. Well, I think most people. see my husband and I at Monarch a lot. It's not too far from our house. It's very convenient. It's local. They have great service there. You can't, the food is fabulous and easy to park and all that stuff. So I guess I would say Monarch is one of our staples. My husband and I are big music fan. I have for years and years, and my music taste has evolved over the years, but we still enjoy alternating currents. So proud of the downtown partnership that really came up with that idea and they stuck with it through tough times, and it was amazing. Now a bi-state regional arts, culture, comedy, all that stuff we love. But music is a real thing. So we'll go anywhere from, we love the Grape Life where you just have like a one or two person
Mhm.
music, or we'll go down to Common Chord to listen to something, or we might end up at the Adler or the Capitol Theater to hear some great music as well, or a big concert over at the Mark.
Yes, all great things. And yeah, like I shared earlier, I have two young sons. So, pre-kids, going to the Adler and, things like the Capitol, are super fun and, Redstone Room, that kind of thing. My husband's
Mhm.
a musician, so I'm definitely interested in the like local music scene. And now, with the boys, I find one of my favorite things to do is to take them to Tangledwood during the summer. Because they do those Friday night concerts and there's just like room to run.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
what I
it's
love.
fabulous back there. Yeah.
That's what I love. I love the diverse opportunities and experiences that, we're offering to our kids. And, hey, you can't go and sit in a bar or a cocktail lounge at age 4, but we can take you to Tanglewood and get you an experience of music really young
Yeah.
at an age
Yeah.
appropriate place.
Well,
So,
they've got that big screen back there too. And so we've gone there actually to watch baseball games.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So on Sundays, they'll have the games playing. So it's fabulous there.
Opportunities are endless. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
so Kids United, circling back to your book,
Yeah.
walk me through the how to. How are we getting our hands on the book? How are we distributing? How do we meet this goal of getting 3,000 kids this book?
Well, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk about it. The book is one piece of a whole bigger literacy campaign. We're really raising money as well. We have a goal to raise $200,000 so that we can accelerate some interventions and programs. But the book, if somebody, holidays are coming up, I hope people pick up the book for gifts at Christmas. It's a feel-good book with a great message, I think. And they can buy it at unitedwayqc.org or any online bookstore, or they can contribute to our campaign. And the other thing is, we're still looking for volunteers who will sit with the child, listen to them read once a week for 30 minutes. It's so easy and it builds confidence in this child, and gives them an opportunity to practice.
Well, I really appreciate that, you're here kind of talking about and leading the efforts and, combating the literacy issues that everybody is facing. So I'm really excited for this project. Definitely want to help be part of the solution here. And is there anything else people can look forward to as far as what Kids United is up to over the next, 6-12 months?
We're going to do in March is Dr. Seuss's birthday. And
Right.
so we're going to do a big reading week across the Quad Cities. We're going to ask celebrities and regular people like me to participate and just go in and make a statement and really promote reading proficiency. The other thing that I think might be interesting that I feel like I'd be really remiss if I didn't mention, because we recently received $1 million grant, a challenge grant from the Balmer Group. And so it's money that's coming from outside the Quad Cities to inside our region to really to be used to remove the barriers that our kids are facing to be successful in school. And so we announced this a few weeks ago, and we have a program it's called United for Schools, and it's in Title I campuses, which are low income schools. And it's really all about activating the community in the school. We're serving as sort of a concierge to provide community resources inside the buildings to the children and the families. And I think it's another thing that differentiates our region from other communities that we're actually doing this public-private partnership right in our school buildings because we cannot leave the future of our kids just to the schools, the teachers. It really requires all hands on deck. And I'm proud of our United for Schools program. I'd encourage people to go to our website and read about that as well. But really, as a region, we should be celebrating. We qualified for $1 million grant to help more of our kids be successful, not only in school, but in life.
That is huge. And as a mother, kind of starting to navigate the school systems, that has me so excited and really hopeful
Yes,
for
yes,
for what's to come for my boys. So
yeah,
that's so
absolutely.
exciting, and thank you for again helping to lead the charge in this. So, I'll make sure to link the website in the description of this podcast. So whatever
Great.
platform you're listening to, go ahead and check the description. So unitedwayqc.org/Kids United is going to be probably your base place to start diving into all this information. I saw that the book is for sale on, it's easy to get. I saw it on Amazon. I saw it on other places. So it's definitely easy to get your hands on. So thank you again, Renee. And per tradition on this podcast, I would love to have you fill in the blank. QC, that's where.
Well, I have to stick with the theme of my book. So I'm going to say QC, that's where kids have the power to make their dreams come true.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time today. I wishing you all the best in this and looking forward to seeing what's ahead for Kids United.
Thank you so much, Katrina. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to QC, That's Where, a podcast powered by Visit Quad Cities. Text Visit QC to 38314 for insider events, activities, and updates sent straight to your phone. That's VISITQC, one word, to 38314. Message and data rates may apply.